everyone. Thank you for coming to today's GBM. We are the Youth Movement Against Alzheimer's, and this is our first GBM of 2021, first GBM of this quarter. And we have a lot of exciting things for you. We have a lot of exciting things planned this quarter and the following quarter. And we're kicking it off by talking about Alzheimer's. We're an Alzheimer's club, so we should tell you guys more about Alzheimer's. And then we'll also be sharing about our opportunities and what we have been doing. So our organization, we are a chapter of a larger nonprofit organization that focuses on Alzheimer's. And we are the largest nationwide youth-led organization that focuses on Alzheimer's. And our goal is to promote understanding of Alzheimer's among the youth by providing opportunities to help those affected by the disease. And this includes the patient themselves, the families, and the caregivers. And before we begin, I just wanted to introduce you guys to the executive board. So to start off, hi, I'm Susie, I'm the president. I am a junior studying neurobiology, and I want to be a neurosurgeon in the future and a bird mom, hopefully have a parrot. And a fun fact is that I play guitar.
Thank you, Ms. President. I will be serving as your vice president. My name is Isaac Kim. I am also a junior, class of 2022. Yes, thank you. And a neurobiology, likewise. And plus one, I am also, I want to be either an aspiring neurosurgeon or an artist. And the reason for the latter is because my mother is an artist. I am still waiting for those genes to kick in and thrive. So hopefully it comes sooner than later. Fun fact, I am allergic, and I'm allergic to watermelon and any type of melon, so.
Hi, my name is Arjun. I'm treasurer at YMAA, and I'm a biochemistry, cell bio major with an econ minor. I'm also planning to go into neurosurgery, and as you've probably noticed, a lot of us are. And fun fact, yeah, I played at music at Carnegie Hall.
Hi everyone, I'm YMAA's campus publicity director, and I'm currently a senior studying molecular biology with a minor in psychology. And I'm not too sure what I want to do in the future, but probably something in healthcare, like OBGYN, neurologist, or something regarding health policy. And a fun fact about me was I was a camp counselor for the kids of the UCSD staff, and my camp name was Grape.
Hi everyone, my name is Weiwei and I'm the co-director of External Affairs. I'm a freshman and my major is cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. My career plans include physician or physician's assistant. I don't know yet, I haven't decided. I'm going to take more time to explore. And fun fact, I'm a huge foodie.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm also the co-director of External Affairs. I'm a senior, I'm a human bio major, and I hope to be a dentist. Fun fact about me, I started college at 16.
And then Lisa is our junior publicity, but she couldn't make it today. She is a junior studying general biology, and she plans to explore options in PT, PA, graduate school. And fun fact, she's from the 626 area. And now we'll start talking about Alzheimer's. So when people usually think about Alzheimer's, they think of memory loss, but Alzheimer's is actually more than that. It's a chronic progressive neurodegenerative disorder that's characterized by the degradation and eventual cell death. So that means neurons die and your brain starts to shrink. Kind of scary, and that's because it is. And that's why we should care, because so many people are diagnosed with this disease. In the United States alone, 5.8 million people are diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that's not including the people who go undiagnosed. And currently, Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death. And amongst the top 10 killers in the United States, it's the only one without a cure, no treatment, and no way to slow down its progression. Also, if that doesn't concern you, it's currently costing us $7.9 trillion in healthcare and long-term care costs. And by 2050, that's going to nearly triple to 14 million. And that'll definitely bankrupt our healthcare system. It's a lot more than what's allocated for healthcare, and it's basically our United States budget. So there are a lot of reasons why we should care.
So basically, there are two major kind of pathologies that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. The first being this beta amyloid protein aggregation. So normally these beta amyloid proteins form these soluble oligomers in the brain, and they're generally associated with antimicrobial activity, cholesterol transport and regulation, and protection against oxidative stress, and kinase enzyme activation. But sometimes these proteins get cleaved incorrectly and they become what we refer to as sticky, meaning they aggregate where they shouldn't. And these lead to these really toxic plaques that can block cell signaling and lead to synapse erosion and eventually cell death. The other pathology is this tau protein neurofibrillary tangles that we see. So normally the tau proteins bind to microtubules in the axons, which, as you know, are abundant in the central nervous system neurons and kind of act as part of the cytoskeleton. And this is very important for memory regulation. However, these proteins, similar to the tau, can aggregate and they end up forming these toxic neurofibrillary tangles. And so here's a brief sketch where you can see the plaques between the neurons sort of disrupting the cell signaling and the tangles within. Yeah, and then here's like an actual picture from a brain. So you can see this sort of aggregation on both fronts. Yeah, and one thing to note is that these things aren't necessarily independent of one another. As you can see, if you follow just the numbered steps, you can see how the aggregation of the amyloid beta can actually lead to more tau aggregation. So they're very connected, and many of these sort of pathologies associated with Alzheimer's disease are connected in these similar pathways.
So as Arjun beautifully explained the biology of Alzheimer's disease, I'll talk a little bit about the behavioral cognitive aspect of Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's has 7 stages ranging from mild to severe, but typically it's grouped into mild, moderate, and severe Alzheimer's. And the stages, we're not even going to get into how they determine that. Anyways, but what's important is how the disease progresses. So it starts in the hippocampus, which is in the medial temporal lobe. And the hippocampus is important for memory. And it starts there and it goes to your temporal, then your parietal, then your frontal lobe. And as these regions are being impacted, their cognitive functions that are local to those areas are also impacted. So as it starts in the hippocampus, we first see loss of memory, which is the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease, right? And as it progresses into the temporal and parietal lobe, the individual with Alzheimer's develops dementia. Dementia and Alzheimer's are not exactly the same term. Dementia is an umbrella term for a variety of conditions, variety of symptoms that come with diseases, such as Alzheimer's and frontotemporal dementia. So as this individual starts to progress Alzheimer's throughout their brain, they have other cognitive impairments such as visual spatial. They have the inability to recognize loved ones. And a lot of the times people with Alzheimer's develop depression and become apathetic. And eventually Alzheimer's leads to death. This was very shocking to me when I first heard about Alzheimer's disease because I thought it was just memory loss, but it does lead to death as the disease progresses into higher level functioning neurons. So your digestion, your breathing, your heart rate, everything is impacted and it leads to death, very sadly.
So you may ask, what are the risk factors surrounding Alzheimer's disease? So as you can see, age, the greatest known risk factor for AD and other dementia is actually increasing age. So typically, if you did have it, symptoms usually start at age 65. Interestingly, the risk of Alzheimer's actually doubles every 5 years beyond 65. So 70 times 2 and so forth, so forth. So in terms of family history, it actually says that if you have a close relative who has been diagnosed with AD, with Alzheimer's disease, your risk actually increases by about 30%. And get this, for Down syndrome, we could call it like a uncle disease. According to the National Down Syndrome Society, interestingly enough, about 30% of people with Down syndrome who are in their 50s also have a very, very high linkage to Alzheimer's dementia. In regards to head injuries, so wear a helmet, protect yourself. Head injuries, they could develop into TBI, which are traumatic brain injury. And there's the potential, once you do receive an injury to the head, potential dramatically, exponentially increases for receiving Alzheimer's disease. In terms of cardiovascular disease, we have to follow the motto, healthy body, healthy brain. So that goes with any caloric regulation, just anything you ingest, you do have to watch and maintain yourself. I mean, it is a new year, new chapter. So if diet is definitely on the resolution, keep that going and keep that strong because it is a lifestyle. In terms of the cardiovascular disease, we have to also talk about the research involved in cholesterol and its parallels connection to neurotoxicity. Think about the potential head to heart link, and that's involved in AD. And earlier we talked about the APOE4 gene, and those are very contributed to cholesterol levels.
All right, so now we're going to talk about how you can reduce risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. So first off, having good sleep. Sleep is super important for your body in general, and without it, we can't function normally. So make sure you get that 8 hours if you can. Also, take care of your heart. So having a healthy diet and consistent physical activity will reduce risk of getting AD. And last but not least, challenging your brain, such as learning, playing educational games, and interacting with others will help reduce risk for AD. Also, research and data collection show that those with a higher level of education, their Alzheimer's typically progresses at a slower rate. And those with lower levels of education tend to have the disease progress faster.
Thank you, Wei. And so there are actually quite a few of treatments ongoing. So far, we have two of many. I wouldn't say many, but definitely 2 ongoing and prominent treatments that we do have in hand. So the first one would be cholinesterase inhibitors. And so what you can take away from cholinesterase inhibitors is it's the prominence and significance is to increase communication between between the nerve cells and the axonal combat to improve the symptoms of Alzheimer's, to maintain that memory and that experience. So specifically though, these drugs have been only for use for mild to moderate stages of AD. And NDMA antagonists, as you can see, those are specific receptors that are part of like within the white and gray matter, but what they are very crucial for are synaptic plasticity and survival of neurons. So the more folds that there is, the more maintenance of synaptic plasticity and more just like the maintenance of like the experience and the memories that you do have.
So there are also some non-pharmacological therapies, which include psychological, interpersonal, behavioral, emotional, exercise, and environmental therapies. So those therapies include reminiscence therapy, which is a kind of therapy that uses all 5 senses to help individuals remember events, places, people from their past. And then second is cognitive stimulation therapy, which is a program with small groups of people with themed activities to improve memory and mental abilities. There is also music therapy, which is used to reduce agitation, improve memory, and behavioral issues in all stages. And there was also a study that showed that music can be used to quote unquote retune the brain to remember some tasks in the early stages of Alzheimer's and other dementias as well. There is also memory training, which is obviously a program to help improve memory and concentration, and then also change in lifestyle, including sleep, diet, and physical exercise.
Alrighty, so now we're going to move on to therapies and drugs undergoing clinical trials that are aimed at trying to cure Alzheimer's disease. So Biogen is a large Massachusetts-based biotech company, and they've been working on the largest Alzheimer's therapy focused on treating the cause of Alzheimer's instead of treatment of just symptoms, and that drug is aducanumab. And this is really exciting because this is the furthest any Alzheimer's therapy has gotten in the FDA drug process. So aducanumab is an anti-amyloid therapy that binds to beta amyloid plaques in the brain, and in clinical trials, it's shown to reduce plaque aggregations and tau neurofibrillary tangles, which can cause Alzheimer's disease. And the antibody therapy is currently awaiting FDA approval following its phase 3 trials.
So as we see on the graph on the right, the results showed a 15% decrease in cognitive ability for low dose patients, as well as a 22% decrease for high dose patients comparable to the placebo baseline. There was also a functional decrease in daily activities such as using the phone, cooking meals, etc. And higher doses for the drug were correlated with a great reduction with the tau neurofibril tangles.
Thank you. So FDA declines approval of aducanumab. And so what this is actually undergoing right now currently is it's going in phase 3 trials. And what that means is basically in August 2020, this past year, aducanumab was granted priority review by the FDA, by the big dogs up top. What they mean by that is like the agency, the drug approval agency, plans to expedite, and they have been currently expediting the review process to determine whether they will approve this medication against Alzheimer's disease. And so you've seen the contributions and the effect that it's made. And so definitely we can consider this a new peak on the horizon.
Just as Isaac has said, the FDA prioritized aducanumab for FDA approval, and that shows how important it is to find an Alzheimer's drug, a cure, not something to just alleviate symptoms. And there are so many companies that are producing therapies, drugs, whatever. Right now, in 2020, we had 121 unique therapies and in 136 clinical trials. And all of them, or majority of the ones that reached phase 3 got declined. So we see this insufficient amount of therapies that are making it to phase 3, and none of them are being approved for Alzheimer's Cure. None of them are being approved by the FDA. So we see that it's so important to have Alzheimer's research and have participants in research. So this is me urging you guys to get involved with clinical research as a participant, because they do need controls and there aren't enough people who are engaging in clinical trials. But this is very important, and this is especially important not just for the patient, but also for the families and their caregivers, because Alzheimer's doesn't affect just the old timers. It affects everyone, especially the caregivers. And who are the caregivers? The caregivers are typically family caregivers. So that includes spouse, siblings, children, nieces and nephews, et cetera, and each individual is impacted differently. They have to sacrifice their social life, their personal life, their work life, their health even, to care for this individual. And one of the generations that are seriously impacted is the sandwich generation. And these are your 40 to 50-year-old parents who have to care for their own parents and have to care for their children under 18. So they have a bunch of weight on their shoulders where they have to care about work, about their income, caring for their parents, caring for their children, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to support our caregivers. And you're probably wondering, why not just hire a caregiver or send the older adult to a skilled nursing facility where they probably know better what to do? Well, the cost of care isn't exactly as low as it should be. It averages out to $4,000 a month, and the range is actually $2,000 to $9,000. And in California, where everything is expensive, you can imagine that it's more than $4,000. And majority of the households make $1,000 less than $4,000 a month. So it's not within a lot of households' budgets to afford a caregiver or send their older adult to a skilled nursing facility.
Oh, sorry guys. A study showed that 68% of dementia caregivers in their study group had developed clinical depression because of all the pressure of having to take care of their parents as well as their children. And moving on to why respite care is important. Respite care is where individuals spend time with their dementia patients, typically once a week, to allow the caregiver to rest and recover. And caregivers that were part of respite care programs were shown to have a lower prevalence of depression and were in a better health state than those who did not have respite care. So YMAA has a program called Youth Care, and it is a respite care program where students spend 3 hours a week going through memory care packets with individuals with Alzheimer's, and it was implemented into Los Angeles by YMAA in 2018. The business model didn't work out, but after making significant changes and learning from their failure, after making changes with the provided funding and support and advocating things were changed, and our organization was able to establish the service in home. Supporting caregivers is not only important for the dementia patient, but also for caregivers' health as well.
So as an org, we basically focus in 3 main areas, which we dub our theory of change. The first is philanthropy, where, first and foremost, it's a very expensive thing, Alzheimer's. And so raising money is of top importance. And it's something that we definitely focus on. And we've had a lot of fun events in the past. So we're still looking to do that right now. We'll talk about that a little later. Second is service. So volunteering, we do like to promote volunteering opportunities. So whether you want to go out and help aging populations, or you want to build a resume or something, there's a lot of things here, and definitely getting a hands-on service experience is very valuable. And it really does mean a lot to those who have Alzheimer's. And then finally, advocacy. Change takes a lot of work and it takes big effort. And so advocacy is probably one of the most underrated but important parts of sort of pushing an agenda that puts Alzheimer's patients first and sort of broadly gets the conversation going about the importance of Alzheimer's work. And here's some awesome pictures of us doing those 3 things.
So I'm going to talk about one of the past events that we had when we were able to host in-person events. So that was Cure the Cloud Advocacy Month, and that was basically a 3-week period where we were political and advocates for Alzheimer's disease. The first week was a social media campaign where we had people share their most favorite memories, and that was really fun and cute. And then the second week was a memory wall where we had a trifold poster where people could post their favorite memories as well. And then the third week was really cool because that was when we were actually able to be political advocates and reach out to our local politicians and urge them to support bills and acts that support Alzheimer's research.
So what's really cool about our organization is that not only do we lead local efforts through like the Advocacy Week in Cure the Cloud, but we also engage in national advocacy. So our organization flies out our members to Washington, D.C. to attend a National Alzheimer's Summit every year. Well, in 2020, it was online, obviously, but every year you go to a National Alzheimer's Summit, and at this conference, there are panelists, and these panelists are amazing. They're leading in research, there are policymakers there are people who have really big impacts in science and in policy, and they all care about Alzheimer's, and all the people who are attending this conference are also passionate about Alzheimer's. So it's a great space to be with like-minded people and people who are super passionate about fighting Alzheimer's, and it's a great way to network as well. You get to speak with like all these doctors and super cool clinicians and researchers. In fact, one of my friends, she like got a job offering after talking to one of the guys. He's like involved with Biogen, and they also make Alzheimer's drugs too. And it's just a great way for us to network. And on top of that, you get to meet all the other YMAA members across the nation and those who have already graduated as well. And a lot of these people are going into policy, a lot of them are going into medicine, health, whatever, you name it. And we're all like-minded individuals, very passionate about one thing, you know, not just one thing, but, you know, we have at least one thing in common.
Yeah, I mean, I could not have said it any better than the way Susie did. But so you can just see me, and I'm just like catching up with my childhood friend, my best friend, said Mr. Rogan, you know. But so I mean, what can Gen Z and just millennials do at this summit, at this Alzheimer's disease summit? What we did, we actually made it on Forbes, but we demanded presidential candidates to make Alzheimer's the nation's top health priority. And so what we did at the end of this 3-day movement is we actually had a march on Capitol Hill. We actually met up with Bernie Sanders, just another friend of ours. And so we actually had to kind of like lobby to them. And what we did is we had a message to deliver to these lawmakers, whether it be the Democratic, moderate, or Republican. I don't want to get into politics, but anyways, we just wanted to make it clear cut that this nation's top health priority at this moment was Alzheimer's disease. And so we lobbied to these senators for a bill investing in a better care that Gracie will talk about right up next, is by increasing support and resources for these family caregivers. So us students, which is about more or less 50 YMAA members, we created this grassroots movement, more for lack of better terms, to seek for a cure for the disease that could basically bankrupt America's healthcare system. So that is, I mean, that was a blessing in full plain sight, not in disguise.
Alrighty, so I know we keep talking about advocacy, and I want to just go into more detail, like why advocacy is so important, as well as research. So I'm going to talk about 2 acts, the Change Act and the Old Americans Act. And the Old Americans Act actually got reauthorized recently. So, alrighty. So as Isaac mentioned, we had the chance to lobby for an act that would support the movement against Alzheimer's. And this act was the Change Act of 2019. And it is a bipartisan, bicameral act presented by Senator Shelley Moore Capito and many others as well. And its purpose is to incentivize and provide providers with the tools to accurately detect and diagnose Alzheimer's disease at an earlier stage. So why is it so important that we provide providers with these tools for early detection? So a lot of, as Susie mentioned earlier, a lot of people suffering from Alzheimer's disease and dementia go undiagnosed until death or later stages of Alzheimer's, when treatments and therapies are less effective. So earlier diagnosis means more referrals to clinical trials that work for cure for Alzheimer's. And right now it's really sad because these clinical trials have really low levels of engagement, just because a lot of people are getting like diagnosed at a later age and they don't really want to be participating in clinical trials. So early diagnosis means that more people will be able to be clinical patients for these trials and support research. And especially amongst communities of color, like these trial participation is really low. So Yeah, and then earlier detection can also allow for earlier implementation of behavioral and social dimensions that in daily lives that can delay cognitive decline, like Nancy and Weiwei mentioned before. And this would not only provide relief to the many suffering from Alzheimer's disease and dementia, but also provide the relief to the 16 million caregivers in America. And how does this act do it? So this act does it by increasing outreach efforts in primary care and patient communities, and requires that providers perform cognitive tests on a more regular basis to allow for more early detections. Alrighty, sorry, I just talked a lot. I'm gonna talk some more, but so now I'm talking about the Old Americans Act of 1965. So the Old Americans Act of 1965 was the first federal initiative aimed at providing comprehensive services like meals, job training, health promotion, benefits, caregiver support, transportation, and so much more to older adults. And recently in March, legislation was passed by Congress with unanimous bipartisan support for the expansion of the legislation services to include Americans living with dementia regardless of age. So that's really, really important because now people who are younger but are diagnosed with dementia can get the help they need. And it's really expensive, as Susie mentioned before, to be able to support someone with Alzheimer's disease. And I found this quote by Robert Egg, I think, the Alzheimer's Association Chief Publicity Policy Officer, to be a great representation of why this reauthorization was so necessary. So the quote is, regardless of age, anyone who receives and is living with an Alzheimer's or other dementia diagnosis faces unimaginable physical, emotional, and financial challenges. With the passage of this critical legislation, Congress has ensured that these individuals and their families are not denied many of the services that they desperately need. Okay, so like, how can you help or be part of this? So you can help by being a political advocate for Alzheimer's disease as well, because pushing politicians to recognize that Alzheimer's disease does need the funding and backing for more research can help us, like, bring us a long way. So ways you can help are to get involved with your local chapters of Alzheimer's Association, connect with your local politicians, call them up, email them to learn more about what their stances are about Alzheimer's disease, and maybe you can educate them on things they might not know and encourage them to back bills and legislation that increases funding for Alzheimer's disease research. You can talk to your friends and tell them what, like, the amazing things you learned from this GBM, because like, I didn't even know a lot of this stuff, and it's really interesting to know, and it really helps people care more about this disease. And the last thing you can do is join us at YMAA, and we do a lot of amazing things, and we're pretty fun people, I think. And yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gracie. So for our GBMs, our general body meetings, we have them on weeks. So today is the week 1 meeting, and then week 3, week 5, and week 7. On Tuesdays at 7 p.m., we're going to have researchers and neurologist speakers, seminars for professional growth, and also collabs with other student orgs for events. So if you look down the pictures, there's the how to read a research paper. So that's kind of like a journal club where we go over a research paper and learn about it. And then there's speakers, and then also we had a collab with Brain Exercise Initiative, and we had a trivia night. So stay tuned for more fun meetings like that.
So for volunteering opportunities, we have a few. One of them is Phone Pals, which is a program that connects volunteers with elders to help them feel less lonely in the pandemic. Each volunteer will be paired with a senior to call them every week, once or twice for just a few minutes.
And what better way to fight against Alzheimer's disease than by being a part of an ADRC, Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. So actually ADRC, Gracie and I are actually a part of that. And Suyun is also the liaison, the middleman for YMAA and ADRC. And what ADRC is that it's actually one of 32 university-based sites. It's such a flex to fight against Alzheimer's disease. And so it's funded by the NIH, funded by the National Institute on Aging. It's this very big center for Alzheimer research, clinical trials and centers. And so it's just this medical center that's just so dense in terms of just research. And so definitely reach out to one of us to get involved and make a change. And you will definitely be making a difference by being a part of this.
And we've also had speakers come in from ADRC. So you guys will have chances to network with them and talk about what kind of research they conduct and, I don't know, get your foot in the door. And another volunteer opportunity that I wanted to talk about, this isn't YMAA affiliated, but I thought it was worth mentioning because this is actually in person, and I know we're in the midst of a pandemic. But if you are comfortable with being in contact with older adults, there is this program that you can apply to. The deadline says December 31st, but is actually extended to January 15th. And you can just scan the barcode or enter the link. But what you'll be doing is, it's kind of far, it's in Chula Vista. But what you'll be doing is helping older adults living in skilled nursing facilities, senior homes, and helping them with technology, helping them how to use this, how to, I don't know, FaceTime their family members, et cetera, et cetera. This organization is partnering with a number of other organizations to provide these older adults with iPads. So you'll just be helping them like figure out iPads, maybe download some games for them. I don't know. But this is great because you can gain valuable work experience. You receive a certificate of completion and even a letter of recommendation, which is great for graduate school or future jobs. And one thing they wanted me to stress is that they're looking for bilingual people who speak Spanish and English. And yeah, that's just one of the opportunities that are in San Diego. And another thing that I wanted to talk about is our 135 fundraising campaign. The 135 fundraising campaign is a national effort by YMAA where we're hoping to raise $10,000, I believe. And all this money is going towards caregiver innovation. And we spent a lot of time talking about looking for a cure, but then what's also important is the care of these individuals with dementia and taking care of the family members who are also affected by this. So we're having this 135 fundraising campaign to be able to hire people to work on these projects because, you know, COVID took a toll on all of us. But if you're interested in making a page and having your own fundraising site, please reach out to us and we'll get you set up. There are prizes for each individual. You can win masks if you like even just raise $5. And then at one point you can get like a $135 Visa card, which is crazy, along with other things. And if our chapter makes the most money, we can get a lot of things. We can fly more people out to DC, which is amazing, at no cost, by the way. So this is something that's very important to us, something that will benefit you guys as well. And that's just one of the things that's going on for fundraising. And Gracie will talk about stickers.
Yeah, so on a more local level, we have our own like organization fundraiser just to help us fund for like local Alzheimer's research and for food drives to buy food for seniors and also for volunteer programs. So these 4 stickers are just some of the designs that we have currently, and we have a lot more coming. And we're also doing custom stickers, and the stickers will be ranging from $75 to $1, and all the profits will be going towards like YMAA and stuff like that. So look out for more sticker designs coming soon. And we're also planning on designing like planner sticker sheets if you guys are interested in that as well. And it's a really good time to buy stickers with Valentine's Day coming up. So you can buy stickers to express self-love or like love for your significant other. And I'll be uploading a pre-order form probably next week on our Facebook and Instagram. So you can follow us on our Facebook at the Youth Movement Against Alzheimer's at UCSD, and our Instagram. And then also, if you haven't already filled out our membership form, please do so. Like, just scan the QR code. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to us about like the volunteer opportunities or like any questions, please contact us through our email.
Thank you guys. That concludes our GBS.